So are you one of the fans who were feeling that the Titans finale, if you will, episode 11, felt more like a mid-season finale and not actually a finale? I want to go over what Greg Walker, the showrunner of Titans, has to say about why that is the case and what this means for season 2. So let's dive straight into this video. What is up, Titans? Welcome to a brand new Titans video. So you may have actually heard me talk about this a couple of times before, one in my actual finale review itself, but also a Q&A I did not so long ago. So essentially TV Line have come out with this article, and I might talk about a couple of other things in the article, but naturally this came out 21st December after the finale. And then they want to talk and reflect upon what happened in that episode. Obviously, things that could be coming in season 2, like briefly discussing Superboy, reflecting back upon the season and what it was like to do Beast Boy and the CGI for that. Just a cool little all-round kind of thing. But the main question that I want to get to straight away is the one near the end, and I feel like the way TV Line worded it definitely personifies how a lot of us fans, I can't speak on behalf of everyone, feel about that kind of finale, if you will. And I just want to give my thoughts and opinions on it as well, and I really want to encourage you guys down in the comments below to give me what you think about that whole finale and how I feel we should have got that episode 12, because it just definitely wasn't handled right, but they think it was. And by all means, I'm putting both my hands up there. I do not run a show. I am not in the writer's room. I do not have any experience as to why they may have made this decision. This is just like from my perspective and the way I feel like it should have gone regardless. But anyway, this specific question goes as follows. The recent Hank and Dawn episode landed close to the finale, but was very standalone-y. And I was with you because I figured you were activating those characters to play a part in what was to come next with the big bad, especially when Dawn said, "We have to find Jason Todd." But then the finale came and went, and we didn't see them. So I'm curious, in part because the episode count changed from 12 to 11, which is a fact. That's why, number one, it didn't feel like a proper finale. Did your original finale turn into the season 2 premiere? And this is where it gets interesting. So a version of that, yes, Greg Walker goes on to say, we're cannibalizing some of the stuff from episode 12 for the premiere of season 2. We thought it was such a good cliffhanger at the end of episode 11, and we wanted to go for an even bigger, better season 2 opener. We had a big idea, and our friends at DC bought it. So this is where it's a bit an aria. I can definitely see what they mean by this. I don't want to go out and say, or people to get out of this video, or Boba thinks that the Titans season 1 finale was shit and everything like that. That's far from the case. I just feel like the way they really laid out their artwork here, or if you were drawing a painting, it was just unfinished. Now, I've had some people say to me in the comment sections, oh, duh, like normally seasons are like 22, 23 episodes long. Titan season 1 was like 12 originally. So, of course, this feels like a mid-season finale. Yes and no. I have to agree with that in the sense that, yes, it is obviously shorter than, your typical Flash season 4 or 5 or whatever. But that doesn't matter. You get plenty of shows out there with, 12 to 16 episodes, right? Which are still feeling really fleshed out and concluded by the end of season 1. That doesn't forgive Titans of their lackluster season 1 finale. Now, I like how the guy who's asking the questions here says, the fact that they added in Hank and Dawn right close to the finale, and Dawn left it by saying, oh, we need to go find Jason Todd. And everyone, including myself in the review, was like, oh, well, by the finale, when they're probably like confronting Trigon, or when Trigon, at this time, we didn't know if he was coming or not, but we were guessing, oh, maybe it comes out, and then everyone's gonna, stand there in a house and be like, screw you, man. And then, I'll get to how this could lead into season 2 anyway, if they would have gone with the original plan. So that was perfectly obvious, I feel, because nothing ever came from it. Dawn had woken up in hospital. You can assume Hawk and Dove were on their way to also not only get Jason Todd, but all meet up at that house, perhaps with Donna Troy, perhaps with Starfire. The same stuff would have happened with Dick Grayson, of course, because don't forget, that all happened in episode 11. And then episode 12 would have probably contained, Starfire getting into her armor that you see on screen right here. This is one of the images that they cut from episode 12. And as Greg Walker is putting it, they're cannibalizing stuff exactly like this from episode 12 and putting that into the premiere episode. Donna Troy, I guess, would have tagged along. As I said, Hawk and Dove may have arrived after getting Jason Todd. It might have been a somewhat, this is probably far from the truth, but you know, you can imagine it, somewhat of a confrontation. And the reason why I say they still could have done an episode 12 and still had a great season 2 opening, which they're using as the excuse as to why they cut episode 12. They could have still had Trigon just disappear, or like, you know, I don't know, face off against them really briefly, and still had that big season 2 episode 1 opener, which in this actual TV Line article they say they're going to do. Practically the first episode is going to surround setting up the big new villain that is Trigon. What I'm saying is they still could have done that, but they could have still done episode 12. And the big problem with one of the reasons as to why a lot of people felt like episode 11 wasn't exactly a finale is because, as they put in this TV Line page, most of it was in a dream sequence, which I've read across multiple websites, which, you know, most people are in agreement that is one of the worst ways you can kind of finish off a series in their first season, is put most of it in a dream sequence. Yes, it does relate to the plot and the finale, because Trigon was trying to make Dick Grayson make bad decisions. He still had free will in that dream sequence, but Trigon, as I kind of mentioned in my review, was putting the bowling pins up and just kept tempting Dick Grayson throughout that whole episode to hit the strike, and the strike was embracing his darkness. So, you know, he kept doing that through like bringing the Joker alive, blah, 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 after he was dead. That would, you know, force Dick Grayson to not fly back home to Dawn, stuff like that. You get that. So I get it does tie in, but with, you know, like what, 36 minutes minus the intro and the previously on Titans, and then minus the credits, that's not a lot of episode to conclude a season in, especially when none of it has really anything to do with everything else that was going on. And this leads me into number 2, with the fact that a lot of people say the show is called Titans, which, oh my god, surprise, it is called that. And episode 11, the finale, it just had Dick Grayson in it. And unless you count Rachel at the end was Gar even in the background? I don't know. I can't remember at this point. But you get what I mean. If they had an episode 12, you would have seen how it was supposed to be. I feel like this is the thing. I'm not putting down the show, but if they would have had an episode 12, it would have fit beautifully. It would have been like, okay, what a great season. Still was a great season, but it would have felt right. We would have seen Starfire, Donna Troy. We could have even seen Jason Todd. We could have even seen Hank and Dawn arrive at the house, or at the very least go after Jason Todd to get some backup against Trigon. We would have seen all kinds of things like that. And we would have still got that Superboy bit at the end. But you kind of see what I mean. The fact that they decided to cut that just because they saw Dick Grayson's eyes go dark, and they were like, oh, this must have been their thought process. Because I get it, because in a way it's like, oh, Dick Grayson goes dark, he kills Batman in the dream sequence, so he's embraced his darkness, so he's temporarily gone dark, right? We should leave it there. I get it, it's a cliffhanger in a way, but with everything else that you've set up, that was a mistake. And as I say, I'll go back to the quick mention of Hank and Dawn saying we need to find Jason Todd. That's thrown out the window now, unless they're going to include that in, as I said, season 2, episode 1, and all the other setups. You really sacrificed all of that and the Titans themselves appearing in the finale just because you found one suitable cliffhangery moment. I disagree with that. I feel like the best creative decision would have been to, introduce episode 12 still with everything that seems to be in it. I mean, we've got Raven here in an actual comic book accurate costume, with even the chakra jewel, or gemstone, sorry, should I say, which is a big thing. How does she get that? I mean, I'm predicting that in episode 12, as I've roughly said a few times, you know, with Starfire doing this, Donna Troy doing that, whatever, maybe Rachel, after Dick Grayson goes dark in episode 11, has a bit of like an uneasy feeling that this isn't right, despite Dad bringing back Gar. Maybe I shouldn't trust him. Maybe she snaps Dick Grayson out of it eventually. Somehow she spawns a little jewel on her head. I don't know, but you get what I mean. It could have ended that way, because in this photo you also see that Dick Grayson whether it was a CGI or not, whatever, you could argue that that would have still had to been implemented here. He doesn't seem that he's in dark mode anymore. It seems that he's been taken out of that. And even if you want to use the argument of they may have added CGI to it still, he's behind Rachel with Starfire on the other side. So it seems that, he's behind her backing Rachel and he's out of the darkness at this point. So this is what I mean. In episode 12, a whole bunch would have happened and it would have felt like a nice conclusion. Rachel would have, as we see here, would have gotten a comic book accurate costume. Starfire would be in hers, although we don't really see her here. But here's another photo of us seeing her in that from a distance. Dick Grayson, looking like Dick Grayson, snapped out of the darkness. And I'm guessing because Rachel would have maybe got really powerful in that moment, because I was wondering maybe a few of you guys would have been like, oh no, that's a bit naff if Trigon had to like teleport and escape somewhere to lick his wounds and then, arrives back in the season 2 episode 1 premiere. But I think that is kind of acceptable as an episode 12 finale, because as you see here, Raven is like doing this weird, powerful, like flappy thing with a kind of costume. She's got the chakra gemstone. She seems like she's discovered her power, and maybe that's because she's defending her true family, the Titans, despite whether it be from her family, of her father. And you kind of see what I mean. Rachel could have got very powerful, and that could have been threatening to Trigon. And as we kind of can predict here, Rachel is probably the key, or one of the biggest weapons they've got against her father right now. And then, so episode 12 would have ended. And you can kind of see where it goes on from there. And their arguments of, they're cannibalizing some stuff from episode 12, so they can use that in the season 2 episode 1 premiere. I just don't think that's good enough, because I'm not saying what I've set up is brilliant, because obviously it needs so much tweaking, but I'm saying they could have still set up Trigon in the season 2 episode 1 premiere, dedicate a whole episode towards him, and we still have the Titans over here having maybe scared him off because of Raven rebelling against her father. This all could have worked, and then they could have got like word of Cadmus Labs breakout or like Superboy kind of thing, and that sets up this other sideline story of a new member of the Titans roster being added. Do you know what I mean? That is the way I think it was originally meant to go. Of course, I do not have all of the puzzle pieces, let alone many of them. I'm just putting the bare minimum together. And it still looks like it would have been better and more fulfilling to the audience as an ending for Titans. Not teasing in Hank and Dawn, oh, we need to get Jason Todd, completely unfulfilled. Not doing a dream sequence for most of your finale with none of your main characters in it really, unless you include Starfire in the dream sequence, blah, 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 and Rachel and Gar on FaceTime. I do want to acknowledge though, not that I necessarily agree with it, but how Greg Walker says here, we had a big idea and our friends at DC brought it for a better season 2 opener. We wanted to go for an even bigger, better season 2 opener. I'm not negating that. I'm sure the fact that regardless now, we're not getting episode 12. With season 2, episode 1, we're going to get what we should have seen in episode 12. So it will probably be a big opener. I'm not saying that's not going to be the case. But was that worth it, Titans? You could have gone out with a big ending on season 1 and still had that set up for Trigon in season 2. So I am fascinated. I think it is a shame. I mean, like Anna Diop, there was this big whole thing with the Starfire costume. Everyone knows that. Everyone was like, is she going to get a final costume? And then after a lot of pressure, eventually Anna says that yes, Starfire will be getting a more closer to comic book accurate suit towards the end of the season. Oh, wait. But it was taken because, she would have got that in episode 12. We have kind of seen it in those Starfire flashback, moments she was having with deja vu kind of stuff, the amnesia, whatever you want to call it. But that just shows that, as it even states in very literal word and fact here in the TV Line interview, that, that was going to be concluded in episode 12. But man, one of the biggest things that was criticized about the show, oh, why are they not wearing this and that? And granted, as I and a lot of other people were saying, they need to develop into those characters. They're not just superheroes from the bat like Dick Grayson was. They didn't even give that to the people who didn't understand that and who were flaming the show. So that's an interesting choice as well. It's not the end of the world. Don't take this too seriously, but they did film this for season 1. That's the gripe. It wasn't filmed for season 2. They borrowed it for season 2. So that is why this is a little bit of an annoying thing and a shame. But either way, season 2 does look to be very bright. I can't wait for it. They did briefly talk about Trigon's design here, and I think it could be a bit of smart wording, but it is also true as well in terms of how not walking around as a blood dripping fanged beast like Trigon is kind of cooler in a way when you're like this human being that is Sheamus in the show. Now, you could look at that as true, yes, but you also save a lot of money not having him walk around in full demon mode, even though I wouldn't want that anyway. If any of you guys watch Lucifer, it's not like he walks around with his demon face all the time, and it does save money, I get that. But I do, Titans, also want to see Trigon in the demonic mode. The only way we've seen that so far is when he put his hands through the portal when Raven was pulling him out, but then he came through in human form. And then, of course, on Starfire's ship, we saw a thick hologram of Trigon, which a lot of people were saying. But yeah, it's a really interesting article. I recommend you guys read it. I will leave it in the description down below. But that was the main thing I wanted to tackle from it. Just their excuse as to why they wanted to cut episode 12 is for a bigger opening in season 2. But bottom line for me, they could have still gone for a really big opening in season 2. And it wasn't worth sacrificing the kind of confusing ending and all the setup for the finale that should have been, but ended up being lackluster because they didn't include it. Other than that though, everyone, I know this was a bit of a ramble, but I would love to know your thoughts on what I said based on this article. I know some of you guys don't really care. I know some of you guys thought the finale was really amazing. And you think it's fine that this is going to be borrowed for season 2. But for me, if you really watch episode 9, 10, and 11 again, and what was set up for blatantly episode 12 to come, you will see that it's quite literally like a puzzle piece being laid out. Sorry, a puzzle being laid out on the table and taking the centerpiece out just to make it cooler for when you present it in season 2 episode 1. I don't know, but anyway, hope you like this video, guys. I am looking for more video suggestions, so go over to my community tab on my YouTube channel if you want to see a video where it's just about Titans. You want me to do a video discussion video like this, or another kind of theory-based video on anything else, let me know there. Links, as always, are in the description down below to follow me on social media and other places like Twitter and blah, blah, blah. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, Titans, in the next video. Goodbye.